You know, a lot of people think the hardest part of learning English is grammar or vocabulary, but honestly, the real challenge often shows up when you try to speak. It's that weird, nervous feeling, like your brain is full of words, but your mouth suddenly forgets how to work. I've seen it so many times. People who've studied English for years still freeze up the moment someone asks, "How are you?" in real life. And if you're feeling that way too, you're definitely not alone. It's kind of like this. Imagine you've been practicing driving in an empty parking lot for months. You know how to start the engine. You've learned how to turn, park, brake, everything. But the first time you pull out onto a real road with traffic, honking horns, and people crossing the street, your hands get sweaty and your heart starts racing. It's not because you don't know how to drive. It's because now it's real. There's pressure. And that's exactly what happens with English speaking. What makes it worse is the voice in your head. You know, the one that whispers, "What if I make a mistake?" Or, "What if they laugh at my accent?" That voice can be loud, and it's tricky because it convinces you to stay silent. But the truth is, making mistakes is not just normal, it's how we learn. I mean, think about babies. When they start speaking, they don't say things perfectly. They fumble, they mix up words. But no one laughs. Everyone claps and cheers. "You said doggy." "Good job." And slowly they get better. But for adults, we're so scared of looking silly. We forget that nobody really expects us to speak like a native. Most people are just happy we're trying. And honestly, when you speak with a little hesitation or an accent, it's not a failure. It's a sign of bravery. You're stepping outside your comfort zone. That takes guts. I remember one time a friend of mine, a software engineer from Brazil, moved to Canada for work. He told me how during meetings, he'd sit quietly, even when he had good ideas, just because he was afraid his English wasn't good enough. He thought people would judge him. But one day, his manager said, "You know, you always have great feedback in emails. Why don't you speak up more in person?" That little comment made him realize people wanted to hear from him. His fear was just a wall in his mind. That's the thing. Often the fear isn't about English. It's about judgment. It's about the worry that someone will think we're not smart or capable. But here's a thought. What if the person listening isn't judging at all? What if they're just trying to understand and maybe even admire your effort? That small shift in perspective changes a lot. One thing that helps is to reframe the goal. Instead of trying to sound perfect, try to be understood. That's it. You're not giving a TED Talk. You're ordering coffee, or asking for directions, or introducing yourself at a party. Communication doesn't need to be polished. It needs to be real. I mean, Even native speakers mess up their words. They pause, they say and like all the time. So why hold yourself to a higher standard than that? And then there's the speed thing. So many learners think they have to speak fast to sound fluent. But rushing only adds stress. It's okay to take your time. In fact, slowing down helps you think and helps others understand you better. It's not a race. It's a connection. Another friend of mine from Vietnam used to practice speaking English in front of the mirror. She'd imagine different scenarios, like ordering food or asking someone for help, and she'd practice what she'd say. At first, she felt silly, but it gave her confidence. So when she was in those real-life moments, her brain already had some of the words ready. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. And that's a great word to remember. Enough. You don't need perfect grammar or a huge vocabulary to make a connection. You just need enough. Enough to say what you mean. Enough to keep the conversation going. Enough to make someone smile or respond. Once you stop aiming for perfection and start aiming for connection, the fear gets smaller. Now, of course, there will still be awkward moments. Maybe you'll say something strange by accident. Maybe someone won't understand you the first time. It happens. But instead of seeing those moments as disasters, try seeing them as part of the story. Like, remember that time I asked for chicken and accidentally said kitchen? It becomes something to laugh about later. Actually, laughter is a pretty good tool, too. If you can laugh at your mistakes, they stop being scary. They become memories. Learning a language is like collecting stories. Every funny moment, every strange sentence, every time you misunderstood someone or they misunderstood you, that's part of the journey. It makes it richer. One thing I often suggest is to start small. Talk to yourself. Talk to your dog. Read out loud from a book or even a recipe. The point is to get used to hearing your own voice in English. Then, little by little, you can move on to short conversations, maybe with a friend, a teacher, or even a stranger at a cafe. Each time you do it, you build a bit more courage. And if you're thinking, but I freeze when it's a real person, yeah, that happens. A lot. The mind goes blank. Words disappear. But that moment of silence, it's not the end of the world. You can smile. You can say, "Sorry, I'm still learning. Can I try again?" Most people are patient, more than you think. The truth is, people love it when someone makes the effort. You know how proud you feel when you see someone learning your language? That's how they feel about you. It's mutual respect. It's human. And when you begin to really feel that sense of mutual respect, something starts to shift inside. You realize that speaking English isn't just about grammar rules and vocabulary drills. It's about connection. It's about showing up, being present, and letting someone hear your thoughts, even if they come out a little messy. And here's a funny thing that happens. The more you speak, the less you think about speaking. At first, every word feels like walking on a tightrope. You're careful, you're tense, and every step feels risky. But over time, the rope feels wider. You stop looking down. You start enjoying the walk, maybe even waving to people along the way. I remember a student who used to carry a small notebook with him everywhere. He'd write down every word he didn't know when he heard it in conversation. But over time, he stopped needing the notebook. Not because he knew every word, but because he realized he could still keep a conversation going even when he didn't. He'd say things like, "Sorry, what does that mean?" Or, "Could you explain that a bit?" And people were always happy to help. He learned that fluency isn't knowing everything. It's knowing how to keep going when you don't. There's also something powerful in just showing up regularly. Like, if you speak English once a month, it'll always feel like a big deal. But if you speak it every day, even just a little, it starts to feel normal. It becomes part of your rhythm, like brushing your teeth or checking your phone. It's just something you do. And when it's normal, it's not scary anymore. A lot of learners say to me, "But I don't have anyone to practice with." And I get that. Not everyone lives in a place where English is spoken. But the internet is full of people who want to practice, just like you. Language exchange apps, online groups, even joining a class where speaking is the focus. It's all out there. And it doesn't have to be hours a day. Even 10 minutes of real conversation can make a difference. It's like watering a plant. You don't need to flood it. Just give it a little water every day, and it grows. And don't underestimate the power of listening either. The more you listen to real conversations, podcasts, interviews, YouTube channels where people talk naturally, the more your brain gets used to the rhythm of English. You start to pick up how questions are asked, how jokes are made, how pauses work. You absorb it without even realizing. Then when you go to speak, the patterns are already familiar. Also, can we talk about accents for a second? A lot of learners worry about their accent like it's something shameful. But here's the truth. Your accent is a part of your identity. It tells a story about where you come from, what languages you speak, what journey you're on. And people are way more accepting than you might think. I've heard English spoken with every kind of accent imaginable. French, Indian, Nigerian, Korean, Colombian. And you know what? It's beautiful. It's proof that English belongs to everyone, not just one group of people. Of course, if your pronunciation is making it hard for people to understand you, then it's worth working on specific sounds. But the goal isn't to erase your accent. It's to make sure your message is clear. That's it. Clear, not perfect. And clarity comes with practice, not panic. You'll also notice that confidence builds slowly, like muscles at the gym. You don't do one workout and expect six-pack abs. Same with speaking. One conversation doesn't make you fluent, but each attempt adds a little strength. You might not notice it right away, but it adds up. And here's something I love to remind people. Fluency isn't just about speed. It's about flow. Even if you pause, even if you search for words, if you keep the conversation alive, you're fluent. It's not a test. It's a dance. Some days it's smooth. Some days you trip. But you keep moving. I've had learners who thought they were terrible speakers because they got nervous. But when they started focusing less on impressing others and more on expressing themselves, everything changed. Their speech was more relaxed. They laughed more. And guess what? People responded better too. It's funny how energy works. When you're tense, the person you're speaking to can feel it, and they get tense too. But when you're relaxed, even if you make a few mistakes, it puts everyone at ease. The conversation flows better. It becomes a human moment, not a language test. So if you're struggling with fear, try shifting your focus. Instead of thinking, I hope I don't make a mistake, try thinking, I wonder what I'll learn from this conversation. That mindset takes the pressure off. It turns fear into curiosity. And curiosity is way more powerful than fear. Think about this. Every time you speak, you're getting stronger. Even if it's messy. Even if it's awkward. You're showing up. You're putting your voice into the world. That takes real courage. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So don't wait until you feel ready. You might never feel ready. Speak anyway. Speak with shaky voice, with broken grammar, with pauses and fillers. Speak because it matters. Speak because your voice deserves to be heard. Every single attempt is a step forward. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll have a full conversation and walk away thinking, wait a minute, I just did that. No fear, no panic, just you communicating, connecting, living. That's fluency, that's growth, and that's the reward for being brave.